All the prophets and wise spiritual leaders from every tradition have provided us with beautiful and inspiring stories that we can lean on to understand how we should be and how it is possible to be. Having explored and found beauty in all of these, to meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one finally meets the perfect man. The person of Muhammad is a historical certainty as much as Napoleon, Genghis Khan and Elizabeth I are. There isn't a reasonable doubt about this. The history of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is known in detail. The first of the historians to apply the critical method to his blessed life was Ibn Ishaq, who obtained most of his information directly from the Tabi'een. Even before Ibn Ishaq, there were Sahaba and Tabi'een writers who compiled detailed information for the first critical historians to use. The Isnad, or verification method for the chains of transmission used by Imam al-Bukhari to check the hadith of the Holy Prophet, are known to be considerably more rigorous than any methods usually required by historians for verification of facts. When you add to the mix details that people just wouldn't think to make up because they have no impact or symbolism, such as the inconsequential details surrounding the Holy Prophet's departure from this dunya, you can only conclude that the historical details we are given are accurate and verified. If we do not question the history of other people who are documented in the past, we definitely should not question the history of the life of the Holy Prophet. What then astounds the one who is fortunate enough to meet this perfect man is the breadth of his endeavour. He was the most commanding military leader imaginable. The qualities required for this are an enormous strength, courage and determination. Added to this, he was a political master. He understood clearly what was presented as a political issue in front of him and dealt with it with immeasurable focus, understanding when generosity was required, concession was required, or when a firm hand was needed. His diplomacy knew no bounds. This showed him to be exceptional in his generosity, understanding, patience and forbearance. But added to this, he constructed a society which truly flourished, and not from a good starting point, from nothing. The early Muslims enjoyed total fairness, a way of living that was fulfilling and full of meaning, and a completeness which I don't believe any other society has ever had. They were able to be, and the variance of the beauty of the differences between people enabled a greater society. The society did not curtail the flourishing of the self in even the most minute way. Subsequent Muslim nations have not succeeded in replicating this because the societal leader is always the final word. In the early days, Allah was the final word, and the learned of the people discussed what his word may have meant in consultation. But he did not sit in a castle and spend every hour plotting his next mission or conquest. He did not spend day after day negotiating with other leaders. Neither did he spend all his time running the social order. Just imagine occupying any one of these jobs, your time would be completely taken. Remarkably, he was the best and most considerate of neighbours. He was a family man. He was the sweetest of family men. He adored his children and doted upon them. He loved and respected his wives, and they loved him in return, sometimes jealously. His example in terms of how we interact with each member of our family and each individual, all an individual given life by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was profound and inspiring. Even with animal guts thrown over him, murder attempts, rubbish thrown at him, stones thrown at him, with every petty and hurtful provocation, he never once responded with anything but magnanimity. He never once responded personally. There was a reason that all the Meccans eventually turned to Islam, and they were not forced. They had witness of the character of this perfect man. As if this wasn't compelling enough to follow and believe this man, he spent his night in prayer and his days in fasting. Despite his perfections, or perhaps because of them, he made astaghfir copiously every night. He never missed a prayer. He was devoted to the end and never forgot for a moment the one to whom even he, the perfect man, was slave. When you unpick the details that represent these truths, and you know that the historical verification on his life is more rigorous than any other historical verification going, you can only conclude that, here I have found the perfect man. The perfect man is not perfect by virtue of himself. There is the one from whom all comes, and this knowledge was a reality in the forefront of the consciousness of the perfect man at all times. It was the air which he breathed. Such is the way with the modern mind that the process of unpicking the furnishings of greatness begins with the most apparent and obvious and ends with the least. But let's approach it from a different direction. The perfect man, Muhammad Mustafa, the holy prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was perfect by virtue of his closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created him as his beloved. His closeness to his Lord refined him such that even in his most intimate relationships he was the paradigm of beauty. These relationships formed the foundation of what he understood as a well-run society, from which the politics and the military command also came. The creation of the perfect man came well before the creation of anything else, and from his light every other created thing has a light of its own. So when that perfect man is realized in human form, it is overwhelming. The perfect man is the symbol of the possibility of all men. We can never be perfect, but we understand what perfection can look like and the direction we should be moving when we look at his blessed life. Such is the weight of the clay upon the soul of man, that even when we try, we get it wrong. But such is the light in the spirit of man, that we pick ourselves up again and we try. There is no other character in all of history that has a verified, detailed history who displayed these perfections with such completeness. There never will be again. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came as the pinnacle of possibilities and contained in him all perfections. The unseen becomes seen in him. The possibilities become reality in him. He has guided and instructed us, warned and taught us. It is only with a completely humbling love that we can approach the perfect man, the man of praise. It is through this love that we will realize our own best possibilities and find our reward with the one who wrote it all.